I am very sick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
This podcast is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. Spoiler warning for whatever is in the title of this episode.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the horrorofbabylonpodcast@gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/thehorrorofbabylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps.
Welcome to episode 100 of The Horror of Babylon, where we discuss Let Me In, Crossroads, and Let the Old Dreams Die. I am Ryan, and with me as always is Daniel. Say hi, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
And thank you to our patrons, Abigail, the First Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron, and Ben,
the fourth
Patron of Hope, and Mia, the Fifth Rainmaker. She makes it rain. And thank you to Horseman Comics Gaming, which you can visit at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the Mall at Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can shop online at shop.forhorsemancomics.com. And if you can, if you make it into the store, say hello to one of Abby's former familiars, Ronald III, Grampus of Christmas.
I was going to say, don't believe anything he says. He doesn't have a daughter.
He does have a daughter.
No, she's a vampire.
Lakin is a vampire. All right, cool. All right, our history with it. I've never read either of these. Had you read? I
read Let the Old Dreams Die a really long time ago, like probably right after I finished the book.
And you're like, more.
Yeah.
Cool. So since we're doing both of these, we're going to do we'll do background on the comic, general discussion on the comic, and background on the short story, general discussion on the short story, and then we'll do scary shit and so on.
Yep.
The vampire's a pure myth, superstition. I may be able to bring you proof that the superstition of yesterday can become the scientific reality of today.
All right, so background on Let Me In, Crossroads. It is a prequel to the film Let Me In, which is the American adaptation of Let the Right One In. It is a 4-issue comic miniseries published by Dark Horse. Very Dark Horse comic.
The Blu-ray for Let Me In came with the first issue.
Ooh. Issue 1 was published on January 1st, 2011. So 1111. It was written by Mark Andreacchio, and I went through his bibliography, and he seems to have 2 modes in terms of comics, and Let the Right One In sort of crosses both of them. The first one is like horror vampire stuff. He wrote Clive Barker's Nightbreed, a Castlevania comic, the True Blood comic series, an adaptation of Jeepers Creepers, a comic adaptation of Predators, and some Friday the 13th comics. And then he also tends to write, he's written some DC stuff and some DC related stuff with strong female leads. He's written Batman, he's written Supergirl, Wonder Woman, Red Sonja, and Fairest. Fairest is one of the Fables spin-offs I've read. It's very good.
Is it about the fairest one of all?
Yes. Snow White is one of the featured characters.
Okay.
in Fairest. Snow White is the female lead of Fables.
Okay.
But it also has Cinderella and a few of the others in that series.
Like Shrek?
No, in Fables, Cinderella is Fabletown's highest espionage agent. She's a spy.
Okay.
Yeah. And she actually is in the Batman Fables crossover, Batman versus Bigby.
All right.
And she has like a interaction with Bruce Wayne where she tries to like seduce him. And yeah, okay. All right. And then the art is done by Patrick Reynolds, who has done various Hellboy projects. Has done Alien Fire and Stone, Prometheus Fire and Stone, Aliens, Colonial Marines, No Man Left Behind, and The Thing, The Northman Nightmare. So lots of horror comics. General discussion on Let Me In, Crossroads. What did you think?
This is very much a Dark Horse film prequel comic, is how I would describe it.
They do a lot of those.
Yeah.
And
if you've read one, you've probably read them all.
Yeah. It depends on how much I like the movie, if I seek these things out. Sometimes if I really like a movie, then I'll look for like the comic prequels or the comic spin-offs, and they're usually passable.
Passable is usually the nicest thing I can say about them.
Yeah, and this one, to me, it was okay. It was fine. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it.
There is nothing for me to loathe in this, but I feel mean and I try to be positive these days. But the nicest thing I could say, like, after I was done with it was, like, oh, that exists. It's a thing that somebody wrote.
There's one nicer thing I can say. I'm going to save it for my king.
Okay.
But and another thing, I did really appreciate that you actually got to see Abby be a vampire.
Yeah, just like straight up murk people.
Yeah, which you do see that in the movie, but it looks really bad. And it looks better here in the comic, and they get to go a little farther with it.
Yeah.
Did you think it was too far when she's like literally flying and takes the guy up into the air? Or?
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of pictured that stuff when I was reading the book anyway.
Yeah, same.
Sometimes I can look goofy in live action, and sometimes comic books are just a better medium for that sort of stuff.
I agree.
My biggest problem is I just really don't like the artwork.
The artwork, it's bad. It's very Dark Horse.
It's very Dark Horse is a way I would describe it. It's
like we're being alternative because we can be alternative.
I don't want to be mean to like somebody who can draw way better than I could ever hope to.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, that doesn't mean I have to like it.
No, it's not. It is not bad quality art. It's just it's a choice.
And it's a choice I didn't enjoy.
Yeah, I tend to like less abstract. It's not abstract.
It's like this. It's weird because I was gonna say it's like this weird cross between trying to be hyper realistic and abstract.
Yeah, and we're not art people, so it's hard to like
describe it.
Yeah, describe it or give like actual.
You know what it almost kind of reminded me of was like sketchbook art that someone colored in.
I feel like the lines, like the borders of like the characters are not definitive. Like you can see like multiple etchings.
And I do feel like that was an intentional choice.
Yeah.
Like that's the style, but that doesn't mean I have to like it.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not quality wise, it's not bad. It's just a choice that I'm not like a huge fan of.
Yeah. And that's a big problem with comics is if I don't like your art, I'm probably not going to have that good of a time. Because that's the thing you're looking at the whole time.
There are comics out there that the story and characters are so good that I can forgive art that I don't like, but they're few and far between.
I can think of one really good example, and that's Superman for All Seasons. And I know I just pissed off a bunch of people because it's like a sacred cow of a comic, but I can't stand the way Superman's drawn there. So,
Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter, there were portions of both books, particularly Hunter x Hunter, where Yoshihiro Togashi was so sick that they just published like his sketch drawings.
That really sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like for any other artist, like that would never fly. But it's just like, you know, at that point they were like a couple hundred chapters deep in Hunter x Hunter, and it's like, well, it's this or nothing. So they did it.
I am very sick.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, I mean, like, and there's a lot of art in Star Wars comics varies greatly, but most of the time I like the story enough that it doesn't matter. But of course,
This art reminds me of like super early Star Wars comics.
yeah, sort of. I like some of the big shots.
Yeah, like this one's not too bad. Like with all the bodies in the basement. Mm-hmm. I like that he just keeps the bodies in the basement.
Yeah, you think that would be like a really bad... Of course, we established in the movie episode that this version of Hawkins is terrible. Well, all versions of Hawkins are terrible at murders, but this one is especially bad. But like,
this is also a version that's supposed to have been doing this for years.
Yeah. It's the characters that it's like... I wish we had Matt or somebody here who knew about art to like describe this, but...
You know what's probably would happen is somebody that really knows about art would be telling us why we're stupid.
Well, I mean, it's an opinion.
Yeah. I'm just that's what my expectation is.
Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, like we said, it was in, oh God, I forget what episode it was, but in a recent episode we were talking about how web comics don't have to have good art for people to read them. One of us mentioned, like, you can just do stick figures. And as I was editing that episode, it occurred to me, like, one of the only web comics I read is stick figures. That's Cardboard Crack.
Okay.
I can do the level of well, almost. I can almost do that level of stick figures in Cardboard Crack. So, okay. So yeah. Yeah, what I like about this is you get to see Abby be a monster, like a legitimate monster. What kind of bothered me about it is that it almost has like the same like story beats with John, the boy in this comic, that she has with Oscar or Owen.
Yeah,
and it almost kind of like detracted from Oscar/Owen, because it's like, does she just have this interaction with every little boy she connects with?
I can get more into that when we get into the short story.
Okay, so we'll table that for now. We'll come back to this. Let the Old Dreams Die is a background on that is a short story sequel to the novel Let the Right One In by John Lindquist. It was published in the short story collection of the same name. The short story collection was actually originally published in Sweden in 2005 under the name Paper Walls, and then Let the Old Dreams Die was added to the 2011 edition, and they changed the title to Let the Old Dreams Die, probably just to like promote it, like, this has the sequel to Let the Right One In.
And that released around the same time as the American movie, didn't it?
The American movie came out in 2010.
2010, so,
yes.
So pretty close.
Yeah. Some other stories included in the collection is the story Border, which was adapted into a feature film, and the story The Final Processing, which is a sequel to John Lindquist's second novel, Handling the Undead. So he did sequel short stories to both of his first two novels in this short story collection. General discussion on Let the Old Dreams Die. You've mentioned it a few times. This was written in response to the movies. Go ahead and explain that now.
Okay, so the movies come out, and a bunch of fan theories come out at the time that that there's no actual romance going on between the children. It's all one side coming from Owen/Oscar. Mm-hmm. And the vampire is really just this manipulative, evil creature who's getting a replacement for Hawkins. Mm-hmm. So he writes this story, and in the story it's revealed, well, they cut each other's hands and they both become vampires.
That doesn't really prove that it's romantic, though.
That's the intention behind the story, is that they're still together, they're going off, and they're being together, even if it's just as friends. It's not her getting a replacement that she's going to use and repeat this cycle endlessly, which is what everyone thought, or a lot of people who didn't read the book thought, and that's what was being passed around. Well, and that was made even stronger in the American movie, where they outright confirm Hawkins was a childhood friend of Abby's.
I half agree with that and half don't. I know that's the intention, but just because she makes him a vampire doesn't mean that...
Yeah, it's a completely different relationship, though.
Yeah.
And they're still together, they're still out in Spain.
Right. Obviously, it's a different relationship than she has with Hawken.
Yeah.
And honestly, I prefer to think of it as a romantic relationship. Like, I ship them, that's my thing. But just because she makes him into a vampire doesn't mean that they have a romantic relationship.
The response was that she wasn't using him as a new proxy. Not necessarily that it had to be romantic.
Oh, okay.
But that instead of her being like this manipulative creature that was going to use Oscar up and then discard him with another new kid down the road, like it was a cycle. So he wrote this story right there. It's like, no, it's definitively not a cycle.
Okay.
Here's something explicitly different. And that's the only reason he wrote the story. Because his intent in the book was that this was like a cute ending that these characters wanted to be together. That she wasn't using them, but because of the movies, people had these theories, and he's like, he didn't like them. So that's why he wrote the story.
Okay. I have really conflicted feelings on this story because when I first read it, I was super mad.
Yeah.
I was super mad. I was like, it felt like Legion to me, where it's like, I have an idea for a story and I want to write this story, but I'm just going to find a way to tangentially tie it to one of my more popular properties.
That's my favorite part about this.
That way it can be a sequel. It's not a sequel. Not in my eyes. But as I put some space between me and the story, I was like, the story in this is actually good. I just don't like to think of it as a sequel because it's not about Oscar and Eli. It's more of a spin-off.
Yeah.
That gives you a little bit of resolution about their story.
Yeah. My favorite thing about it was more of a spin-off and not a direct sequel. I liked the open-endedness of the book and the movies.
I think ultimately I would have preferred leaving it ambiguous.
Yeah.
Which I generally prefer endings that kind of leave it up to your imagination. I'm not angry that this exists because it is a nice story. Like, as I was reading it, like, at first I'm like, I don't care about these characters. I don't care about what's going on with them. I just want to know what happens with Oscar and Eli. And then, after sitting with it for a while, I was like, okay, actually, by the end of the story, I did care what happens with these characters.
I just like that it was, I don't know how to it is a spin-off. I like that it's, like, everyday people that existed near the situation and how they investigated it and, like, the little tidbits of it that they got to see. And we have complete information, complete-ish information, being readers of the, like, original book, that they don't have. But you sit there and you think about it, like, how weird would it be if you were a police officer and you went to a gym where two boys had their heads ripped off and you had to come up with a plausible explanation?
Police officer is probably the literal last job I would ever do, so I cannot even imagine.
A train ticket salesman where you see the missing boy that everyone's talking about.
I guess it would be weird.
Yeah.
Whenever there's an Amber Alert, I'm always like, okay, it's a red Mitsubishi. Is that? No, that's a Chevy. Like, I don't know what to do.
I don't know the difference between those two things.
One has a... Actually, I don't know what the Mitsubishi symbol looks like. I know what the Chevy symbol looks like.
Is it an M? I hope it's an M.
It's not an M. Is it the 4 red diamonds? I don't know.
I don't know cars.
Hold on. Mitsubishi. Yeah, no, it's 3 red diamonds. Okay, so I was sort of right.
Okay, so that will just be on the car?
It's the thing on the front.
Oh.
Like on Ford, they have the little blue circle. And
I guess I've never paid attention to that.
Honda has an H.
Oh. I feel dumb now. That's how people know what kind of car I have.
You have a Chevy.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of Chevy it is, but it has the fat little cross.
The little I guess that's the Chevy symbol.
It is the Chevy symbol. Yes.
Okay, well now I know.
Okay.
I feel really dumb.
Yeah. Blah. But yeah, I mean, it's a good story, but I don't know. Like, it's not, at the same time, I prefer it to be ambiguous, but if he was going to have a short story sequel, I guess I wish it would have been about Oscar and Eli.
No, I don't have a lot to say on it. I thought it was well written. There were points where I was also going, like, I really wanted to hear more about, like, the investigation. Like, I felt like I had to deal with a lot of these people's lives to get to the investigative aspects that I was interested in.
It was the opposite for me. I didn't care about the investigation. I cared more about the relationship between the people. I actually felt like it would have been better. Like, the story in and of itself would have been better if they would have just taken out all the stuff that was related to Let the Right One In and just let that be a story in and of itself. Because I didn't get into that investigation portion of it, but obviously his intent was to do what he did, so.
Yeah. The only thing he cared about was people knowing, no, she isn't going to turn him into Hawkins.
Well, I mean, he could have just tweeted that.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has a tweeter.
I also don't. Was Twitter a thing in 2011?
I think so.
I didn't make a Twitter until like 3 years ago.
2006.
Wow. That is way older than I thought it was.
2006 to 2024. R.I.P. Twitter.
Kill you all! I'll drive you crazy, and I'll kill you all on every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
Scary shit. Is either story scary?
Not really.
No, not at all. I get, like, the scariest part is, like, you and your partner get old and one of you gets sick and dies.
This is what happens when you date an older woman. Oh no, now you have cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the story.
That was shitty.
The comic is bloody, I guess.
Not scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they try to play up, like, that serial killer aspect of it, but if you want to make serial killer scary, I feel like you really have to lean into hyper-realism when you add vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Then I just focus on vampire.
To me, like, the scary part of serial killers is, like, the stalking and the abduction.
Have you seen the movie Zodiac?
No.
They recreate one of the scenes of one of the survivors of the Zodiac killer, and it's one of the most frightening things I've ever seen.
Sounds scary.
Yeah. Well, a killer comes up to a man and a woman at a picnic and holds a gun at them and says, tie up your boyfriend, and now I'm going to tie you up. And then he just starts stabbing them. And this is why you don't let people tie you up. Even if they have a gun on you. It's better to get shot than to get stabbed 36 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, shoot us.
Yeah, I'm not coming over there.
Yeah. I mean, and also, like, make him shoot you, and then that alerts people to there's a situation.
Yeah.
The police will be called.
Yeah, that scene and learning that it was 100%. And the dude survived because he just went more ham on the woman.
Ugh.
And he crawls away after he leaves.
Ugh. And is in therapy the rest of his life.
Yeah. And that's frightening to me because that's something that actually happened and could happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you add vampire, now I'm just like, oh, spooky in quotation marks vampire.
Yeah, I don't consume a lot of serial killer media, and fictional or non-fictional, but non-fictional or something that's based in non-fiction is always worse for me.
Yeah.
Oh my god, are you Stephen King? No, I'm Dean Koontz. Oh.
Kings and Koontz, my king for the comic is the kid John. I just love, like, the quips he comes up with. Like, I posted them in our Discord.
Yeah.
The Hawkins is like, hey, you living with your dad? And it's like, yeah, until I run away or turn 18. He's trying to leave to go see Abby, and his dad's like, you can't leave me. He's like, why? You need me to hold your bong? I just love his quips. He's a funny kid.
Mike
also points to them for, like, murking that kid.
Yeah, 100%. That was great.
Yeah.
I think my king is Abby killing the social worker.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that kind of works as like a horror scene for like a vampire thing. Mm-hmm. Like a social worker comes to find the kid, and this guy's like, "You're not supposed to be here," locks her in her room. And I was like, well, what else am I supposed to do? And Abby's hungry, so she eats her.
Yeah. No, totally makes sense. Koontz for the comic.
The art, I just could not get into it. It made the experience... No, I got one bit worse than the art. When the dude goes, like, insane at the end and starts killing everybody to get the land, and then it shows that he killed the cat.
The cat?
Yeah, he had a pet cat that would continuously get in his car, and its body is in... After he snaps and he started killing people, its body's in his car, and he throws it out of his car.
Oh. Maybe I blacked it out.
Yeah, I'm never a fan of when cats die.
Yeah. I guess there was just nothing... Ultimately, my Koontz for the comic is just that nothing about it grabbed me enough to, like... I also was not crazy about the art. But if there was something story-wise that grabbed me enough, I could have forgiven the art and ignored it. But there was nothing about it that just gave me something to latch onto that I was super interested. It was an okay vampire comic, and that's what it was.
Yeah, it's a Dark Horse prequel comic.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
It wasn't terrible. It was fine.
Yeah, I've read way worse comics.
For the short story, my king is just the cute little love story about this multi or different generational couple and their life together. It was just cute and sweet.
Mine is that Oscar inadvertently got the guy laid, or got him his wife, by him having to show her how they were interlocking hands during the interrogation. I thought that was cute. No, they were holding hands like this. I was like, oh, that guy's smooth.
My Koontz is the scene where it explains that he almost, where the main guy, Stefan, almost gets killed by Eli. And it's just like, I just felt like that was like a step too far. Like, either make it like them just in it just a little bit, or make it all about them. And I don't know. I don't have like a really good way of explaining it, but I feel like if he was alone out there with him and Eli wanted to kill him, she would have killed him. But
my Koontz was just it took too long to get to the parts that I cared about.
Rankings for me, we finally read something. Oh, I accidentally ranked it on yours under.
Oh no, that's where it's gonna go.
Yeah, it's finally something that's, I don't want to say worse than Master of the Future, but Master of the Future is finally better than something.
Master of the Future at least had art I liked.
And it at least had Batman.
Yeah, it had Batman.
It had Batman.
And at the end of the day, I care more about Batman than I care about English version of Eli.
Yeah, same. Okay, so it's the bottom of both of our lists. Again, not bad, just nothing really to write home about.
Yeah.
And then the short story, it's my number 8, above One for the Road, and below The Call of Cthulhu. Or no, it's my number 8. Yes, that is what it is.
I'm going to put it right above The Phantom Rickshaw.
Your number 8.
Oh, there you go.
Below the Werewolf, and above The Phantom Rickshaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. I almost wish, like, you just would have told me what happens instead of actually reading it.
I would have, but then you said you wanted to read it.
Because I wanted more of wanted more of Oscar and Eli.
I was like, we can read it. I mean, it's short.
I'm a completionist, and I wanted more of Oscar and Eli, and it's not what I got. But that's okay.
Well, now I know next time.
Homework. If you could do an adaptation, spin-off, or reimagining of Let the Right One In, but it cannot be a film, TV show, or novel, what would it be and how?
A visual novel like Higurashi.
You stole my answer.
Yeah.
Actually, I think we both said that in a previous episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But, I mean, I just think that that's a good way to adapt the story, especially if you want to do, like, multiple paths or different endings.
I would have make it a harem with multiple vampire girls.
Who's the one from Rosario Vampire? She just shows up.
I don't know. I haven't read Rosario Vampire in more than 10 years.
Dancing the Vampire Bun lady shows up.
I don't remember her name either.
It's something Tepes.
It's been... That was before Drake was born. I don't remember that.
Mina Harker shows up.
She's like half a vampire.
Yeah.
I mean, she's on her way to being a vampire. Okay, so Bram Stoker is Dracula, Mina vampire.
Her skeleton shows up as Helsing Mina Harker.
Spoilers!
Yeah.
Ryan, it's like 20 years old. Shut up, other Ryan. Thank you.
Yeah, to our patrons.
Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons. And
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron. And Ben, the Fourth, Patron of Hope. And Mia the Fifth, the Rainmaker.
She makes it rain, yo.
And thank you to Forceman Comics and Gaming, which you can visit at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the Mall at Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can shop online at shop.forcemancomics.com. And if you make it in the store, say hello to Ronald the Third, Krampus of Christmas. Our episode on A Treehouse of Horror was longer than our episode that reviewed a whole comic series and a short story. Thank you for reading these stories and recording with me tonight.
You're welcome, Ryan.
Thank you to our patrons. Stay tuned for our socials and stay scary.
Stay scary.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher, and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that the Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.